Good Monday morning. It's 5:43. We're back here on Sunrise, and you know, in an emergency, seconds matter, and there is a tool that is helping save lives.
Now, Matt is here to explain how this works and how it could really save lives.
Yeah, this is really growing in popularity, and you know, it seems we hear an awful lot about these trauma kits or these stop the bleed kits, so we really wanted to know, what exactly is it? Well, there is a tourniquet inside, and Indianapolis EMS walked us through how it works in the aftermath of a tragedy or accident, and after you've called for help. From there, you cover or even stuff the wound with gauze or perhaps even a shirt in a pinch. Then comes the really tough and physical part.
Basically both hands, put some body weight into it, and what you're wanting to do is put pressure on that artery or those large veins that are bleeding. If that doesn't work, or very quickly after that, you want to apply a tourniquet. You want to get that blood to stop flowing out of that damaged artery.
So, you know when you go and you get your blood pressure tested, right, and that cuff really clamps down on you? That's what the tourniquet basically does, tightening and working to stop the bleed. But what if you're in an emergency and you don't have one?
You know, there's always the story of I used a shirt or I used a belt. It can work, but that's not a hard and fast rule. The best thing to do if you do have someone that's hemorrhaging and it's an external you know, trauma into the arms and legs, best thing to do is just direct pressure.
And the real goal here is to get more of those kits put in more places. Coming up in our next hour, we're working to break down just where they may actually be required soon by lawmakers and how they got so popular here in the first place.
And are they that expensive, these kits?
Well, there's the tourniquet inside, there's the gauze, a lot of different other materials. How much would you expect just one kit to cost?
I don't know, maybe $100?
Yeah.
The surprising part is $50 for
Wow.
just one kit, so not as expensive as you might be thinking. So we've got more about that and some training classes because they really want to get all of us learning how to use these. We've got more details for you about that on WTHR.com.
I'm sure it's just repetitions where you're comfortable with it, because in an emergency, Matt, I mean, those seconds are so critical. You don't want to be panicked. You want to say, hey, I know exactly how to get this done.
Practice is key.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Matt.
And does your family know what to do in an emergency to help save a life?
Well, there is one life-saving skill that's being taught across the country, and it can mean life and death in many accidents or tragedies. Matt is here to explain what it is and how this could be in every school soon. Matt?
Yeah, good morning to you. In fact, a bill to do that has already cleared the Indiana House. Now it is off to the Senate. And at the State House, lawmakers could soon debate that bill, which would require the Stop the Bleed kit to be in schools. So this morning, we're taking a closer look at it.
If you don't do something quickly, you could be in trouble pretty fast.
In an emergency, every second matters.
You get into like a femoral artery, you're talking a couple of minutes.
Indiana witnessed 2 school shootings in 2018, waking up Hoosiers to the unfortunate reality of the dangers that are out there. That's why emergency responders urge Stop the Bleed training for everyone.
These are on all of our EMS resources, and then we're trying to get them into the public, into the hands of the general public.
These kits are roughly $50, and the goal is to have these in more public places.
One of the first things you want to do is you want to apply direct pressure. And that can be done with, if you don't have gauze or sterile equipment, clean towel, clean shirt, something like that.
Then comes the main piece, the tourniquet.
And you want to go above the wound, and a lot of what we teach our folks is high and tight. And start clamping down on that artery by twisting this windlass. And once that's twisted, you bring that over, and then this comes across. And this is twofold, this part right here. You can log the time of how long the tourniquet's been on for the surgeons to know later. If we can train those bystanders basic hemorrhage control methods, then we've now turned them into an immediate responder.
And to help with that, there is free training you and your family can attend. It's Wednesday from 5:30 to 6:30. This is at the Franciscan Health Education and Support Services Building in Greenwood. The address is there on your screen. Last month, they held similar events at Cecina and Shelbyville High Schools, training 700 people. The goal is to get as many people to be trained.
And how did it become so popular?
What's really interesting is learning about this. It really started back when the war in Iraq. That's really where those tourniquet kits became so popular. And many soldiers have returned here to be police officers, first responders, emergency responders, and so they started using it and really pushed for more of it, and now it's becoming much more common.
And Matt, obviously the tourniquet we saw in your story is ideal in any situation, but if you don't have one, what's the best thing to do?
You know, it's really interesting. We've heard a lot of people who say they just like rip off their belt in an
Right.
emergency and use that to really stop the bleed. They
Yeah.
don't recommend that actually, but they do say the big thing is direct pressure on the wound.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff it with something like rip your shirt off and put that in the wound to tighten
Okay.
it and stop the bleed there. So we've got more details, including a step-by-step guide on WTHR.com.
All right, interesting. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, great to know.